Listen, my children, you shall hear of the midnight ride of Paul Revere on the 18th of April, 75. Parliament is now alive. Who remembers that famous day and year?
He said to his friend, if the British march by land or sea from the town tonight, hang a lantern aloft in the belfry arch of the north church tower as a signal light, one if by land, two if by sea, and I on the opposite shore will be ready to ride and spread the alarm through every Middlesex village and farm for the country folk to be up and to arm.
Then he said good night with the muffled door, silently rode to the Charleston shore. Just as the moon rose over the bay, were swinging wide at her morning sleigh the Somerset British man-o'-war, a phantom ship with each mast and spar, across the moon like a prison bar, and huge black hulk that magnified by its own reflection in the tide.
Meanwhile his friend, through alley and street, wanders and watches with eager ears, till the silence around him he hears the muster of men of barrack door, the sound of arms and the tramp of feet, and the measured trend of grenadiers marching down to their boats on the shore.
Then he climbed the tower of the old North Church by the wooden stairs with stealthy tread to the belfry chamber overhead, and startled the pigeons from their perch on the somber rafters that round him made masses of moving shapes of shade by the trembling ladders steep and tall to the highest window in the wall, where he paused to listen and look down a moment on the roofs of the tall town and the moonlight flowing over all.
Beneath in the churchyard lay the dead in their night encampment on the hill, wrapped in silence so deep and still that he could hear, like the silent thread, the watchful night wind as it went creepily along from tent to tent, and screaming in whisper, all is well. A moment only he feels the spell of the place and the hour, the secret deed of the only belfry and the dead. Suddenly all thoughts are bent on a shadowy something far away, where the river widens to meet the bay. A line of black bends and floats the rising tide like a bridge of boats. Meanwhile, impatient to mount and ride, booted and spurred with a heavy stride, on the opposite shore walked Paul Revere. Now he panted his horse's side, now gazed on the landscape far and near, then imperatus stamped the earth and turned to tinted saddle girth, and mostly in watched eager search in belfry tower and the northward church as it rose above the graves on the hill, lonely, spectral, and somber and still. And lo, as he looks on a belfry height, a glimmer and then a gleam of light, he springs to the saddle, bridle he turns, but lingers and grazes, full of sight. A second lamp in the belfry burns. Hurry of hoofs in the village street, a shape in moonlight, a bulk of in the dark, the belfry from the pebbles, and passing a spark, stuck out by a steed, flying fearless and fleet. That was all, and yet through the gloom and the light, the fate of the nation was riding through the night, and the spark stuck out, and the steed in his flight kindled in the land into flame with its heart. He has left the village and mounted to steed, as beneath him tranquil the board and deep he mistook, meeting the ocean tides, and under the alders and skirting's edge, now soft and on the sand, now loud on the ledge, is heard and tramp on his steed, and he rides. It was 12 by the village clock when he crossed the bridge into Midtown. He heard the crowing of the cock and the barking of the farmer's dog, and felt the damp of the river fog that rises after the sun goes down. It was 1 by the village clock when they galloped into the Lexington. He saw the Gwynland weathercock swim into moonlight, and he passed, and the meeting house windows, blank and bare, gazed at him in spectral glare, as if already stood aghast, and the bloody work of it was 2 by the village clock when he came to the bridge to the crowded town. He heard the bleating of the flock and the twitter of birds among the trees, and felt the breath of the morning breeze blowing over the meadows brown, and one was safe and asleep in bed at the bridge on the first to fall, who that day was lying dead, pierced by the British musket ball. You know the rest in the books you have read. The British regulars fired and fled, how the farmers gave them ball for ball, for from behind each fence and farmyard wall, chasing in redcoats down the lane, then crossing the fields to emerge again under the trees at turn in the road, pausing, fire and load.
So through the night rode Paul Revere, and so through the night went his cry of alarm to the very Middlesex village and farm, a cry of defiance and not of fear, a voice in the darkness, and a knock on at the door, and a word that shall echo forevermore. For borne on the night wind of the past, through all our history to the last, in the hour of darkness and peril and need, the people will waken and listen to the hear of hurrying hoofbeats of that steed, and the midnight message of Paul Revere.